Hello and welcome to Everyday Petrohead. So today we are dealing with my E53 X5 4.4i. Currently I'm having some problems with the front end on the left side. I think it has to do with, well, initially I thought it had to do with the wheel bearing. So what I'm going to do is take off the left front wheel and take a look and see what's going on, because there's a good chance that the bearings need to be replaced, which I'm going to do soon if that is the case. And these are different, they're press-in bearings, and I have a friend of mine who has an amazing corporation that can help me out with that, so that's really great. So we'll get to that a little bit later on. But I think that it might actually be one of the control arms that's loose, because the alternator bracket has an oil seal that many of us know about that tends to leak, and mine is currently leaking, and it's dripping on the control arms. There's a chance that it might have loosened the bolts. And if that's the case, that might explain why the wobble on the left side is erratic. You know, sometimes the wheel is straight and fine and doesn't wobble. Other times it wobbles like mad. And it might just be the fact that the oil has loosened the bolts and it's starting to shake, and then it stops and it stops, starts and stops. So I figured maybe I should take a look and see if that's the case, and then we can go from there, you know? Maybe that is the problem. And I can resolve that pretty quickly. The other thing that I'm thinking too is, if it was the bearing, it would be constant. It would be non-stop shaking. That's why I don't think that that's the actual problem. But let's get into it. Alright, so I like to put the jack stand underneath just to be safe, but I also keep the jack connected. Yes, I know it's not a hydraulic lift jack or whatever, it's fine. It's the one that came with the car, it works. But I decided to put the jack stand underneath for extra security. Also, which is not a bad idea, is when you take the wheel off, put the wheel under. Now I know it's gonna look messy because, again, the oil leak it looks worse than it is. It's again, like I said, the alternator bracket, that seal needs to be replaced. It broke a few weeks back and it's been splattering oil everywhere. So it's kind of been annoying. I have to keep pouring more oil into the car, but that's fine because we'll solve that in a few weeks. So no big deal. Okay, so I have the wheel off and I put a bolt back on so I can help turn it. So I can listen to see if it's grinding. That'll tell me if the bearing is worn out, for starters. And also I have to do the shake test. I have to try to rock it and see if that's part of the problem. Those two things will kind of tell me for sure if it's the bearing, but I don't think it's the bearing. I think what's happening, and I'm kind of seeing a little bit of it already, is if you see here, there's a lot of oil everywhere. And this is because, where is it? Right here, right behind, which is kind of hard to see. Let me get some extra light. Hold on one second. Right up there, where I'm shining the light, that is the alternator. And the alternator right behind it, there's a bracket. It's got I think about 5 or 6 bolts in it. There are 2 oil lines. These 2 lines right here, 1 and 2, that lead that way and up. And the seal for that bracket is leaking most likely on everything. And it's getting down here, it's causing sludge all along here from the dirt and the oil mixing. And it looks worse than it actually is. I checked the oil pan, and the oil pan seems fine. I also checked the oil filter housing, and that's fine, which also, if that was the case, oil wouldn't come all the way up here and splatter all up in here. That's not how that works. So it's most likely coming from there. I thought it was these 2 oil lines right here, but it's not those 2. It's most likely the bracket. I also talked to some mechanics about the possibility of what could be causing it. And they kind of confirmed what I was thinking. So what I think is happening is the oil is leaking down, and the oil is getting on everything over here that's important. So luckily the height leveling sensor is not going to get damaged that easily, but down here, you see that right there, that thing I'm shining on right there, that's one of my control arms. That bushing is soaked in oil, as well as this one. And I think one of these two bushings is causing it to shake back and forth slightly and randomly, more so than anything else. But I'm gonna check all of this. I'm gonna grab my vice grip, clip onto things, shake about. I'm gonna check underneath and behind here as well, just to see if there's anything else that could be causing the problem. But I suspect that the main problem I'm having with the instability on the left-hand side is more so attributed to the oil leak. I don't think it's the bearing. I don't think it's the half shaft, the axle, but I'm gonna check that as well when I go in there. Stay tuned. Okay. Yeah? You're fixing?
Yes.
Okay, so we have it off. Say hi.
Hi.
That's my youngest right there. Well, soon to be the middle child. You okay, baby?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, don't lose it. I need it, okay? Oh, say okay. Okay? Okay. All right, so back to this. So
Daddy, what's that?
that's called a breaker bar, but don't break it.
I don't break it.
You don't break it?
I don't break it.
Okay.
I don't break it.
You don't break it. Okay.
I don't break it.
All right, so there is a little bit of play. So it definitely needs to be replaced. The bearing, that is. But it's not rocking back. Yeah. It's not rocking out and in. That was my concern. Right? But it is rattling a little bit when I go like this. So I'm thinking the bearing definitely needs to be done. And I don't know how much play I'm supposed to have. It doesn't sound like it's not supposed to have display, but it definitely could be tighter. You guys feel free to comment on it, because I don't know that much about that. I'm still learning. But the next problem is to look underneath and see what's going on. All right, first things first. I'm gonna check the control arm. All right, so it doesn't look like that one's loose, which is good because that was my big fear. So that one seems fine. All right, so next I check this one. And that one is still tight. So I don't think that's it either. All right, so now next is the CV boot and the shaft, which is moving the same amount of play as the bearing. So I don't know. I do have a pair of axles that I purchased, and I might have to put them in when I put on the new bearing. That might be it. I don't know. But either way, I want to just be sure. All right, so I switched to the phone just to see what's going on under here, because it was a little bit harder to do it with the camera. All right, so I'm checking underneath now, and I'm doing it by hand, so excuse the shakiness. So it doesn't seem like, I don't think it's the control, not the control, I don't think it's the axle. I mean, the axle is dirty as hell because of all the oil, but I don't think that's the problem. But this way you can get a better angle on it and see what's really going on. Like I said, the alternator bracket is just leaking oil everywhere, and making it worse. So, I don't know. I'm gonna take a deeper dive and take another look underneath over here and just see what's going on and see if maybe there's something I'm missing. But I feel like there's a good chance it is the actual bearing. And I do plan on replacing the bearing anyway, just because I think it is overdue. I don't know if the previous owner did his bearing or not. So it just might be time to actually handle that. All right, as I look at it even more closely, it doesn't appear that the axles are damaged, or this axle is damaged, but it is getting dirty because of all the oil. The boot seems okay. I don't even know why I'm putting the glove on at this point. My hands are so dirty. But if I take a look at the boot, yeah, there's no tears in the boot, which is good, which is a very good thing. Because the last thing you want to do is have that, because then the CV joint gets damaged and you definitely need to replace the axle. I do have a pair that I purchased because I thought that was the problem. But again, you know, you shouldn't buy things before you know for sure which thing is the actual problem. So there's that. But yeah, I think this will be serviced, well served by replacing the bearing and making sure everything else is tight anyway. If it was the bearing fully done, then when I rock it like this, you would see some movement. Or if I move it like this, you would see some movement, because again, everything is exponential. Me holding it so far out exerts more force on the center cap or the center of the hub than me holding it right here and shaking it back and forth. So I got to see how much play I had here, and there wasn't really much doing it this way. The same thing with the rotor or disc, and even the same thing here. So I don't think the bearing is fully done. I think there's something more at play going on here, and I need to figure out what that is. Also in 2 weeks time, I'm taking it to my mechanic, having him run a full diagnostics on the car to see what's fully going on, and I'll give you guys an update on that as well. So just finish putting this thing together, and then I'm gonna bring it down to the ground. All right, so what have we learned? Absolutely nothing. Apparently, it may most likely be that the bearing needs to be replaced. I'm gonna have to do some more testing. Later on this evening, I'm going to see if I can use IMPA to skirt the steering angle sensor for now, because I know I need to replace that. So I'm gonna see if I can code it out of here, if possible. If not, I'm gonna see what I can do about that. My preliminary exam of the situation is that the bearing needs to be replaced. It's not as extreme as I thought it was. There's a bit of play, but not lateral play, just centrifugal play. There's no grinding, there's no rattling or anything like that. There is a little bit of a knock that you can hear, because it seems like there's a little bit of a gap. So the bearings are definitely starting to go, but they're not to the point that, oh my God, the wheel's gonna fall off the car. So that is kind of a good thing for now, but it's something I need to service. So I will be servicing that. For safety reasons, it will be serviced. So service your bearings. As I've been learning about this car, as I've been going along, I've realized that there's a lot of things you have to take into consideration. So I do thank this thing for everything I've learned. I think if I didn't buy it, I wouldn't have dove so deeply into learning about cars as much as I've always loved cars, but I've never actually dove into figuring out how to fix a car. That being said, never buy a car without a pre-purchase inspection. This guy did that for this thing, and I regret it. So I will never do that again. So many issues. And the reality is, E53 X5s, or 2000 to 2006 X5s, they're fairly reliable cars. I mean, as long as you get certain models. I mean, usually the problems are under the hood and the engine bay. This one's a 4.4. BMW told owners in the manual that you can go 15,000 miles without an oil change. That's bad idea. It doesn't matter what car you have. 5,000, maybe 7,000 miles is the max on synthetic oil, fully synthetic oil. Regular oil, every 3,000 miles. It doesn't matter what the manual says. You should always change your oil every 3,000 miles. If you're using regular oil. If you're using synthetic, you can get a little bit more room. 5,000, max 7,000 miles, but change it. Don't wait, 10, 15,000 miles. That damages a lot of other things. The oil that's leaking all over the bottom of the car is from the the alternator bracket. So many other places that could have run from, but that was their choice, not mine. And again, that is something that is a known failure point. It breaks every 30,000, 40,000 miles, give or take, depending on how you take care of it, but it will leak. Mine was fixed when I bought it. The dealership did replace it. That was back in 2016, and it didn't start leaking till now, which is pretty congruent with what they said about the range, because I bought it with 107,000 miles on it. I have 137,000 miles on it. I put 30,000 miles on it since 2016. The bracket decides to start leaking. So that seal is a bad idea, and it's on a lot of models, not just the V8s, but some of the inline sixes I believe have the same design. I have to take a look at that. Feel free to write in the comments and confirm, but that's something I'm going to have to deal with, which I'll be doing next oil change, which is coming up really soon. Another couple of weeks I need to do the oil change anyway. So I've been picking up the part for that. That's easy, $2 part, not a big deal. Pain in the butt to get out because a lot of stuff I got to move out of the way to get to it. So yeah, so between that and the bearing, that's my primary concern right now. I'm looking for a steering angle sensor. I've looked up the price of it. The Bosch one is a little pricey, but that's again expected. I can do it myself, so I'm going to take care of it myself. I'm not going to pay somebody else to do it. But in the meantime, I need to figure out if there's a way to bypass it, because the wheels are straight and the sensor is telling the car the wheels are not straight, ergo do not engage all-wheel drive because the wheels are not straight. And the other thing that I'm going to take care of in the next couple of weeks is the coolant thermostat. The coolant thermostat is, the valve is open and it's stuck open, which is good that it's stuck open, because then the car can be driven. But I need to replace it so that the car can regulate things properly and work the way it's supposed to, and then I'll get better fuel economy because the car won't keep thinking that it's not hot enough or not cold enough. Right now, actually, it thinks it's not hot enough. It keeps saying the coolant temperature is below regulated temperature. So it thinks that the car is not hot enough to drive, which is not the case. So definitely something I need to resolve. I can't think of anything else, but we have a lot of videos to do in April regarding this car. There are other things that I'm going to try to resolve during that time that I will definitely film and let you guys know as we go. So a lot of work, a lot of things to capture, and I will give you the feedback of how I feel about it. Again, great car to drive and really not that bad to own. The newer ones are a little bit worse. The E70 has a lot more moving parts because there's a lot more electronic issues than anything else. And the F15, which is the last generation before 2019 X5, had a lot of electrical stuff that was going on that could fail. Then this one also has fewer modules in there when it comes to the computer scenario. So although I have some errors related to that, the CAN bus line has issues seeing certain things. A lot of those things are attributed to the fact that, again, I didn't do a pre-purchase inspection, something I learned later that I needed to do, and I will never make that mistake ever again. So I guess that's kind of my 2 cents on the situation. Can't really complain too much else. Again, like I said, I love driving it. I would buy another BMW. Unfortunately, I think as a second car for our family with the current situation, she might have some numbered days after we take care of some of these issues, because it's more important to have reliable vehicles than something you love playing around with. But I think I'll probably come back to BMW probably for something else. There's a couple of models that I'm looking at, most likely manual, because I kind of want to get away from the automatic transmission, but that's for fun. Right now, let's have a little bit more time getting to know what's going on with this car. Get some content on that. I think that's a great idea. And of course, we'll discuss other things as we go. So like, share, subscribe if you like what I've been talking about, and join me next time with your Everyday Petrolhead. Thanks.